Welcome back to another episode of Wicked Darkness. I'm Kathy, and with me tonight, I have Scott.
Hello.
I have Nicole.
Hi there.
I have Debbie.
Hello.
I have Jessica. And I have Steve.
Hello.
So, guys, we were talking last week about deja vu, and that there's so many different types of deja vu. And we're also talking about how deja vu, we're kind of getting into deja vu being attributed to past lives. I don't know what people think of that, if that is like one of their theories and what they believe. And I know, Steve, you were talking last week about Catholicism and the beliefs and stuff like that, they don't believe in the paranormal and stuff like that. But obviously they believe in deja vu, because it seems like everybody experiences deja vu in some form. And we kind of talked about how deja vu, there's like different types of deja vu. And deja vu, again, for people that didn't listen to last week's episode, it just means that you already have seen it, felt it, you've been there before. It's already happened. You just don't remember when. And you were in a situation walking down the street or cleaning your house or whatever it may be. And then you stop and you're like, this feels oddly familiar. And I don't know why, because I don't think I've done this before. And it could be with just yourself, and it could be with multiple people experiencing it at the same time. So the other thing is, who gets deja vu? Like we talked about deja vu also being where people experience it more when they are having medical issues, schizophrenia, anxiety, stuff like that. But also they talk about who gets deja vu. And in this article that I was reading, anyone can experience deja vu. Those who experience it multiple times, like we had talked about, Steve, before, some characterize there are characteristics of the deja vu, according to the research, is high income, well-educated, frequent travelers, those who remember their dreams, those who are politically liberal, and ages 15 to 25. What?
Yeah, that the one that got me was the politically liberal. I just don't know where that fits into anything of deja vu. Like where did they come? How did that question come up with these researchers?
Right.
And what political affiliation are you? I mean, what does that have to do with it? I don't understand, but
yeah, that kind of threw me too. I'm like, politically liberal. So did you sit at like one of these conferences and go, hey, have you experienced deja vu? Right. No, you're a Republican? Oh, you're a Democrat? Oh, no. Right. Okay.
Well, the age thing too, that 15 to 25 or whatever you said, it seems to me I've been experiencing it like my entire life, at some point in time. So not sure where that came from either.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that just the age group that they were going with? Like those were the people that they talked to? Because like you said, same thing. I experienced it as a little kid. Yeah. I've experienced it as yes, I will say it on here, middle-aged woman.
Oh, stop it.
I know. I'm old. Oh my God, stop.
No, I'm old.
Oh, man.
No, you know what, though? I was freaking my coworkers out. I said, you guys, because they're like going into their 30s or just turned 30. I go, you guys are middle-aged. They're like, what? I go, you think about it. Most people live until they're like 70. You're already middle-aged. They kept doing it because they were calling me middle-aged.
That's funny.
So I'm like, how does that feel? And they're like, I don't like that. So, but I've experienced it recently, and I'm not in my 30s anymore. I'm not in my 20s. I'm not a teenager anymore. So like I said, where did they get these? I don't understand
numbers
from.
Statistics.
Yeah. That's, I don't know where this, I think the last one I was reading was from Portland State, some professor there. And those are the numbers that she was coming up with as well, that 15 to 25 and political affiliations. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where. Yeah. I don't know what you judge your questions on,
Right.
like,
It's kind of like Family Feud, who are they asking their questions to that they get these certain answers, I don't understand these where they get. And why does it have to be high income, well educated?
yeah.
You're telling me that a person that just average Joe, or even somebody that is homeless, is not experiencing deja vu? Really? Okay, frequent travelers. Okay, I can see that one. And those who remember their dreams.
Wow.
Maybe, yeah. I say frequent travelers, yeah, because you go to different places quite often. It feels like you've been in the same situations. Like before, I was telling you guys last episode, I travel the same way going to and from work. So, of course, there's times when I'm driving down the road, I experience deja vu.
But you know what? And I was just thinking about that when you said that. And I kind of agree with that. And my point of view on that is, I drive a lot of the times when me and Jill go out. So wherever we're going, we take the same route. If we're going to the country pump, where some of you have been, I don't look at anything but the road I'm driving. I'm not turning my head all the time and looking at buildings and, but then when I'm a passenger and I'm sitting there and looking, I see so many different things. So I wonder if that all comes in that way, because you must see it when you're driving, but you're paying attention more to the road.
Right.
Or wherever, walking into a building. But I can see where you can have it when you're driving. At first I was like, but yeah, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Because like when you're driving down the road, you're paying attention to the road. But as a passenger, you get to look at the scenery more so than you do when you're driving. Not to say you can't do it while you're driving, but you get a better chance to do it while you're, because there's times that, Scott and I are doing the same thing. We're driving down the road and I usually am doing the driving. So when he drives, I'm like, oh, did that house always look like that? Or,
right. Right? Yeah.
Weird things will pop up. I'm like, I don't remember that. Has it always looked like that? Have we, I don't know. But, I've also experienced it like on an airplane traveling. And I don't know if it's because like you go in most planes, you go from United Airline to Delta to, we'll go all the way back to Pan Am, I guess. Inside the planes, they pretty much all look the same. So are you experiencing the same thing because you're in the same kind of plane? A Boeing 747 is the same no matter who is flying it,
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd be curious to know if animals actually get deja vu.
If animals? Oh, that's an interesting question.
I wonder if they ever get deja vu.
Have you guys ever heard of it actually being like a temporal lobe seizure?
Mm-hmm.
Or right before you have, I don't know if deja vus are actually in the temporal lobe or not, but right before, they experience deja vu is what they say.
Right.
So maybe that's why. I don't know. Interesting to me.
Or, like you smell something, you're like, that I smelled that before.
I smelled that.
But I don't know about that whole smelling one, because like I said last episode, there's like all these different deja vus, but I'm not going to say them because they're French and I don't speak French. But it was the already felt emotionally or already smelled. Well, how many times do you go and you walk through something and you smell an apple pie and you're like, oh, it smells like grandma's apple pie?
Right.
I don't know if I
Can we see and hear me? I got kicked off before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But, there's, like I said, I'll read them again because I read them during the last episode, but people that might not have heard them before. There are different types of experiences of deja vu. There's the already heard, already experienced, already done, already thought, already recounted, already felt emotionally, or already smelled. That's the same one. Already known or the knowledge of, already found, already lived through, already wanted.
That seems, some of that is more like, oh, I remember that, rather than deja vu. You know what I
Right,
mean? It's
right.
not like that. Because, yeah, I don't know. That just seems like,
Because according to this, deja vu is a sense of having already seen something you currently are seeing or experiencing, coupled with knowing you haven't already or you haven't actually seen it, which is why it catches many people off guard. And it's the thought that it's equivalent to a small brain glitch, or as Scott said in the last episode, the Matrix. And that the two streams are crossing and they're colliding with each other to give you the deja vu.
I mean, a lot of those that you mentioned in that list are just memories. You know, I mean, not,
Memories are in your temporal lobe, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but like something that you smelled. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know how that goes with deja vu.
Right.
Because you walk into a kitchen and you smell spaghetti sauces. That's not deja vu. That's just a memory of what something smells like.
Maybe not so much that you walk into a room and you just, oh, that's spaghetti sauce. I've had it before where I've smelled something and I just couldn't put my finger on it.
Okay, that makes sense. If you smell something and you're like,
man, what is that smell? I've smelt that before.
but I get where Steve's saying, well, how is that deja vu though?
So maybe it's not even there to smell. It's like a memory smell. I mean, is it in the kitchen? Is somebody really cooking? I don't know. Maybe it's just locked in your brain.
Right. But like Steve is saying, deja vu is kind of like a memory of something that you've experienced, right? Is that where I'm?
I agree. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's taking
Similar.
right something. If we go back to the whole previous life thing, like I've been in this place before, or I've been in a place that looked like this before, but I don't know. I guess now it's then I'm thinking about Scott's stuff with the smell. But is it okay if there's you and somebody else there? Do they smell it as well? You know?
Right.
Right.
Well, we've had that before where we smelled something and
We
we're like,
have.
what is that
What is this smell?
It smells like.
But I don't know if I would actually call it like a deja vu experience, though. It's just like we've been talking, like a memory of something. I don't know. Well, and then there's so many of them already done. Well, okay, that one is a deja vu. Like I've done this, but I don't remember how I did this or when I did it. The thought.
And that to me, what you just said right there.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to me what deja vu is. You know, like I've been here before.
Right.
Know, but I know I never have. But you get that instant feeling that takes over your whole body, like your head to your toes. Like, man, I've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you say out loud or whatever, deja vu. You know,
Just can't explain it.
Well, and then they already wanted. How was that deja vu? Like, I've already wanted this before?
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
I've wanted a lot of things. I just never got them. But, I mean, it doesn't mean that I've wanted to win the lottery, but that's never really happened except for my $4 or $7 a Powerball. But, I mean, I wouldn't call it deja vu.
well, and I think all those combined, squished down into one, you know, that could all be part of deja vu, but I don't think as an individual category, I don't agree with that. I mean, all those things together make up a issue. You know, I walked into this room. Every one of those things has part of that deja vu feeling.
Right.
But as an individual item, like smelled before, you know, I just don't. In my opinion, I don't think that would be a trigger of a deja vu for me, anyways, of what I experienced. To me, it's more of being somewhere than
I was just reading, there's an opposite to deja vu.
What is that?
Okay, it's French again. I don't speak French, so don't tell me. Jamas? Jamais. Vu. My French is not, I didn't take French, so I'm not even, it's Jamais and then vu, which happens when someone has already been in almost the same exact situation, but does not realize this.
Huh. So then how would you know?
Right.
But isn't that kind of deja vu then?
Right.
Well, if they don't realize it, somebody else has to realize it for them then.
We're like, hey, honey.
And then isn't it somebody else's deja
vu?
vu? It's got to be somebody else's deja vu then, because they know that this happened before, and the person that's happening to doesn't.
Right. Oh, he's going to try to do French over here, the translation for me. But that doesn't, which happens when someone has already been in almost the same exact situation, but does not realize this.
So how do you know what happened?
Well, then how do I know that I've done it? Isn't that called a concussion?
Yeah, right.
Because okay, so I met up with some friends yesterday, and we played football back in the day. Yes, professional women's football was a thing, people. And so my teammates and I met up yesterday for our 20th reunion. And our joke was, like, somebody would say something, they're like, I don't remember that. And I'm like, it's because you had a concussion. You know? So anytime we couldn't remember, I was like, oh yeah, the concussion.
Blame it on the concussion.
So but that's kind of what this is, though. Like, you already been in the same exact situation, but did not realize it.
Or dementia.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, okay, so being around patients that have dementia or Alzheimer's, they kind of relive things. It's kind of like deja vu. I mean, according to this, like, one of the deja vus is already lived through. So I transported a patient years ago. It was an Alzheimer's patient. And this patient was referring to me as their granddaughter. And that we were going back home to go. The granddaughter used to ride horses. So my patient was like, oh, honey, we're going to go back and we're going to get your horse and you're going to learn how to do this type of riding with the horse, because we were doing this last week. And of course I played along because I had a 40-minute transport. So I was like, yeah, we can do this. And yes, it's not good to do that. Don't mess with people. But I was just trying to make this person comfortable for 40 minutes in the back of a rescue squad.
Oh, nice.
And, I was playing along with the whole thing. Now, they have Alzheimer's, and I know that they had Alzheimer's. It was in their chart. But is that also, according to this, deja vu? Like, they're talking like this whole conversation they've had in the past. But this is like the opposite. Like, they have already done almost the same exact thing, but they don't even realize it.
Interesting.
So, and I know you've had patients that have been like that, your Alzheimer's patients and dementia patients, and same thing, you kind of play along with it. And I've even done it with schizophrenic patients. This person here thought that everybody in the car behind us was coming after them. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. And then I'm like, they go, well, you need to get them away. Okay, so I went to the door. I'm like, okay, guys, you need to go away. And they're like, okay, they backed off. We're good. And I'm like, they didn't do anything. They're still doing 45 miles an hour right behind us.
They just needed some comforting.
Right. But again, according to this, it's like a knowledge of already known or already experienced, already thought. These are all deja vu, which is kind of weird to think. It's almost like they're saying in here, it's a medical thing. And that's it. It's medical.
I read somewhere that it was a healthy brain that experienced deja vu. Then I went on to like the weird seizure thing.
Yeah, and that's I read kind of the same
Did
thing
you too?
where it was saying it was unhealthy if you were having deja vu, you know,
Too many
weekly
times.
or in monthly, and where like I said, the average person, thinks they have 4 or 5 times in a lifetime.
Wow. See, I get mine much more than 4 or 5 times.
Oh, so do I. I mean, I couldn't
I get
tell
all.
you, but it seems like it's been way more than 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
You know,
So, like, I think this is what you guys were reading. According to this, it said people that are tired and are stressed often report episodes of deja vu. This is thought to be because of fatigue and stress typically affect both long and short-term memory. And then there's a hypothesis that exists that is an excess amount of dopamine may be implicated in the experiences of the deja vu. In the studies, the temporal lobe, which is what you were talking about, they're having seizures, and the research shows that the elevated levels of the dopamine were detected, and this is when they were doing it with mice, of the temporal lobe epilepsy. And they said that one strange cause of deja vu also has something to do with the flu vaccine.
Oh no.
So I don't know where they were getting all this information from, but these are causes of deja vu. I don't know. And then they tell you to see a doctor if you have too much deja vu. So people, if you have too much deja vu and it's happening too often, please go to your doctor's office.
Local neurologist.
No. They would love to hear about it. And, I don't know.
What'd your doctor think if you walked into his office and said, I have like deja vu every 2 or 3 days, man,
I know what my doctor would be. He would be like, get back to work.
I mean,
Why are you wasting my time?
do you already have like whatever affliction it is, and that's part of the affliction, or is that something that starts up and then, I just think it's a hard thing to be able to just, I mean, when do you decide that? Like I had deja vu too much.
Right.
Well,
and then are you recording this? Like, some people, when they talk about epilepsy, how long was it will depend on what type of seizure they're actually having. The longer the seizure, the worse it's going to be for an outcome for the patient. So in this case, too much deja vu is telling me that you're having a really long seizure then, which isn't good. But I don't know. I mean, every few steps I'm having deja vu, which also then, according to this research, is saying that I'm having a seizure every few steps.
right. I read that same thing.
We would have a lot of patients on seizure medications.
Damn. I mean,
I don't know.
maybe I'd start a deja vu log. Because neurologists, like even in the animal world, a lot of the neurologists out there ask you, like you said, to kind of log the status and the grade of the seizure, and then, I'm sure it gets further and further into death like post-ictal, and then after 3 seizures or experiences a month, then you talk to a neurologist. But you still, I mean, with all that being said, that is even related to our deja vus.
Right. But can you imagine the doctor's offices being flooded with all these people that are saying that they have deja vu? I mean, you wouldn't be able to get into a doctor's office for like a year.
They all are saying, hey, this is deja vu right now. Hey, I'm having deja vu right now.
Right.
I have deja vu every day I walk into work.
What happens to the doctors? Do they have deja vu too? And then they got to go see their doctor, and then it's like this vicious cycle.
They probably wouldn't even admit it after that.
So
we'd all be sick.
Right. So it's kind of like, who's the therapist for the therapist? But, deja vu, I mean, okay, so back we were talking, Debbie, you were talking about yours was where you were experiencing something like you knew what was coming around the corner before you even got there, and you had never been there before. So is it past life? Is it time travel? You know, because there's also these people that were walking down the street at some point, and all of a sudden the street turns into the street from 1950.
Weird.
Cars are now from the 1950s. People are dressed in the 1950s. So is the person having a seizure and their brain is thinking that everything down the street now has turned into 1950? Or did they just time travel? Or is it another form of a deja vu thing? I don't know. It turns
love
into
the
a
time
vicious
travel.
cycle.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
when you say the word seizure, I think of seizure people on the ground and
Convulsing.
convulsing, right? Having a seizure.
Right.
So it's
Have
hard
you
for me
ever-
to, I'm just trying to, in my own head, trying to figure out how those two then would correlate. I'm having a seizure, so I have deja vu. So
Well, there's different forms of seizures. Like I remember in
Right.
high school, I was in a psych class, and one of my friends who was in the class with me, they were talking to the teacher, and the teacher said, okay, look, this person now just informed me that they do have seizures, and that the way that their seizures are all of a sudden will be they will get up and they will stare, and then they'll turn around, and we had like, remember the accordion type walls in
Doors.
we had that in our psych room. So what this person would do they would get up, they'd stare, and then all of a sudden they'd turn around and they'd run and hit that wall, bounce off and lay on the ground.
Oh dear.
That was their seizures.
See, there's a vocal seizure too, and then some people just get rigid and stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's some are just silent, but I mean when you're talking about convulsing, it's like a grand mal seizure. So I think.
but if you ask 9 out of 10 people describe a seizure, that's what they're going to think,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
and even with the different ways you're talking about, where does the deja vu come in that? Before, during, or after?
Right.
Who knows?
And they don't really talk about it in this research.
No, I know. So, do you have the deja vu and know you're going to have a seizure? Is that
Ooh.
what they're saying?
Well, yeah, because I mean, they talk about people having the epileptic episode, but they're not explaining when the deja vu is being experienced. And most people, like when they come out of a seizure, they're like you were saying, Nicole, it's called postictal. So they're out of it. They don't know what's
Blurry.
going on.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
they're almost just like not comatose, but they're awake. They're just not responding to you, and it takes a little while for them to come back around. But then they don't know that they're having a seizure either. So how did they come up with this whole deja vu and epilepsy?
Yeah. Maybe there is a fine line. Who knows?
If there's a doctor out there, a neurologist that knows this and wants to talk to us about this, I'd be fascinated.
That'd be great.
Find out about it. I don't know how that actually comes into play.
Intertwines, yeah.
But then deja vu with paranormal. You've been in a situation before, and I've experienced it where I've been in a location, and I feel like I've already been doing the same thing in that location before.
Weird.
But I've never been there. Yes, I've gone back multiple times to a location, but when I've experienced this deja vu, it's been a location I've never been to before.
Which is unexplainable.
Right. which comes into the paranormal. That's what paranormal means. You can't explain it.
But that then could go back to what we were talking about when the two frontal lobes kind of have their crisscrossing, and you're remembering things from your mind
Right.
is telling you, I've been here before, because you're remembering the same situation, but again, when you experience it, it's, to me, it's fast. It happens fast. It's not slow, and it doesn't last super long. It's just like, whoa, deja vu. I mean, as long as it takes you to say it, to me, that's how long it lasts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It kind of just, it comes on
Brief,
really quickly.
very brief.
Gone.
Right. I agree.
But then you sit there and you think about it afterwards and where was I? How did I feel this way? Where, but when you're, like you said, when you're in it, it's like you blink and you're already through it.
Yeah, it's not like it's slowly building up. It just happens super fast.
Yeah. I've had a couple though that were a little, and I know that was when I was at work, but I would sit there and I'm like, I feel like I've done this before. Now, granted, I'm at work and it can be repetitive at any job, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
It changes from day to day, especially in my field. I don't see the same patients every day. Everything is different in a small way, but yet it's still the same. But there's times that I'm sitting there going, I've done this before. I know I've done this before. I've said exactly the same words. I've gone through the same motions. I'm in the same location, but it was like, it wasn't as fast. It wasn't that blink of the eye thing. It was just like sitting there going, this feels like deja vu. But it's not something that happens quite often. It's some, very random, very rare.
Hard, few, and very quick. Short and quick.
Yeah. I want to know though if anybody's had deja vu that it's actually terrified them.
Oof. Not yet, thank God.
And I can't remember. I mean, they happen so fast and they're vivid for a few seconds, but I really don't remember. I mean, the feeling and the thought goes away very quick when it happens to me. It's not something that lingers in my thought process.
Right.
It's just that same, this is weird. This is deja vu. I've done this before, and then that's it. Then I go on with whatever I was doing.
But they also talk about deja vu, people that remember their dreams. And have you heard this before where your mind cannot make up a face? Like whoever you dream about, you've actually seen these people. Your mind cannot subconsciously create a face.
Did you also hear that you can't write in a dream either?
Really?
I've never heard about the faces.
Fast.
Yeah, the run fast I've heard before.
Oh yeah.
But, the same thing. So are you experiencing deja vu because it's something that you experienced in a dream? Because, unfortunately, I've dreamt about work. I don't want to dream about work.
Those are called nightmares.
Right. And then it doesn't stop because I'm at the actual place. It's like,
and you can't get out.
My nightmare continues. But, they say that your mind cannot create a face. So is that mean that you can't, but then too, you come up with creativity when you're awake. You can think of things then and draw things and, creative minds or whatever. But so is deja vu, they're saying that it's something that you experienced in your dream. And that's why you're feeling this quickness, because dreams aren't very long, even though for us, it seems like they take forever, but they're only seconds long, if not maybe a minute or so. And then you only can remember so many dreams a night. There are multiple dreams that you can't remember. You've had multiple dreams through the night, but your brain just cannot process it. You can't remember it. So are those the ones that you're experiencing deja vu?
Well, what about when you dreaming something and you wake up and this has happened to me, and then I fall back asleep and my dream continues.
I've had that, yeah.
That is good.
And that's supposed to be like, I don't know, like that doesn't hardly ever happen. And to me, I don't want to say it happens all the time, but it's happened to me in the past.
Yeah.
Where I've woken up and, like, whoa, that was weird. And then I fall back asleep and I'm continuing the same dream.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has anything to do with deja vu or not, but I just think that's a weird phenomenon when that happens.
Right. Well, and then you have more dreams that are more vivid versus other dreams. So again, is that tied into that deja vu? Because there's dreams that I've woken up in the morning and I've written them down because I'm like, for whatever reason, it was that vivid. I can remember all the details.
Yeah.
And I will write it down and look at it and analyze it. And some of them, unfortunately, have come true. And they were kind of like premonitions. And I should have listened to them in the first place, but I didn't. But, I had to go through those motions, I guess. And thank God, eventually it worked out where whatever happened in my dream finished and in real life, and just I got away from that situation. So is that deja vu? Because I experienced, like, I had a dream years and years and years ago, and it was about a relationship that I hadn't been in yet. But all of a sudden I was in that relationship all the way down to like how this person came into my life and, what this person was doing in their life and what they, like where they lived and all that stuff. And I was being told to not be in this kind of a relationship. And then it wasn't until like 2 or 3 months down the road, all of a sudden that relationship ended up becoming a real thing. It wasn't the same person that I had in my dream, but the thing that was happening was pretty spot on. And it was, this is a bad situation. Don't do it. But, consciously I went and did it. And then it turned out to be a bad situation anyway.
Oh.
And I got out of it
Like
before it turned really bad. But was that like the deja vu, a premonition?
I don't know. Is that two different things, premonition and deja vu?
I don't know. Because according to the thing, it was like one of them was, where'd it go? Now I lost it. Already lived through it. Or you already felt emotionally or had knowledge of. So I guess a premonition was I already had a knowledge of it, but then I physically had gone through it without even knowing it at the time, which is that opposite of deja vu. And so, I don't know. Deja vu is weird.
Very.
It's very complex, but yet very simplistic.
Which makes it more complex.
Yeah, right. It's that circle again, that vicious circle.
Yeah.
Steve, you got a good topic this time. This was your thing.
Yeah, I don't even know why I thought about it. Honestly. I was just thinking what you were just saying, though, about the knowledge one. But, can't that just be memories of your life experiences that makes you form that knowledge of don't do that? You have the premonition of don't do that or don't go there because of all your memories of different situations that
okay, so here I'll tell you what this dream was. Okay, so I had lost my first husband years ago, and he was killed in a motorcycle accident. We had 2 small kids, our 2 oldest sons. So I had lost him in April, and so my boys were sitting there going, "Mom, we want to have a little brother, a little sister." I'm like, "It's not gonna happen. Your dad's 8 feet under now." I say 8 feet because we buried him a little bit lower, because at the time I was planning on being buried with him. And I was young. I was 28 at the time.
Oh, man.
So it was like 2 months after he had passed, I ended up having this dream, this very vivid dream. And it was one that scared the bejeebus out of me. Like, I woke up in the morning, and like I said, I wrote it down. And in the dream, I was being chased by this entity. And this entity was very deformed, and it just scared the crap out of me. And I couldn't figure out why I was being chased. I was being chased throughout this area and in this house and everything. And I was supposed to be dating somebody that was living out of their car. And we had this relationship, and this person lived out of their car and then was eventually living with me in my home. And so this entity is just chasing me and chasing me and chasing me. And I'm like trying to run away. And one of my friends was with me in the dream. And I remember it was kind of like my parents' old home, because my bedroom was on the second floor. And I remember running up the stairs and came up to this bedroom, and there was a bed, and on the headboard was a mirror. And this entity came in right behind me, and I saw the image in the mirror, and it was my late husband, but he was deformed because he had been dead for a while. Now I know bodies don't decay like that, nowadays because of embalming and all that stuff. But at that point I realized that it was him, and I wasn't so scared. And then he's like, you cannot date this person. This person is bad. I do not want him around our kids. You need to break this off. And I'm like, okay. And then I woke up, and I was like, God, that was weird. I wasn't dating anybody at that point. So a couple months later, I was playing football, and I met a gentleman, and I wouldn't even call him a gentleman. I met this guy, and he ended up being part of our team or whatever. Come to find out, at this point, I didn't know it at the time that we started talking, he was living out of his car.
Oh, dear.
And, then all of a sudden he started living in my house with my boys and I. And it just got to be kind of weird. And then he started taking money from me, like asking, I need this? And I was being nice. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you need that? Okay, I'll buy that for you, whatever. But I was getting nothing in return. And then eventually I met my husband, Scott. And then I had like feelings for my husband versus this guy. So I broke things off before I even started anything with my husband. And it didn't dawn on me until later that I'm like, oh my God, I had a dream about this. I wrote all this information down in a notebook months ago, that I was going to be dating somebody who lived in their car and was going to be bad for my boys and I. And sure enough, I went down that exact road, not even realizing until it was all the way over, done. And then it was like, oh my God, how did I not remember this?
That's actually a very cool story.
It's still, it's been almost 20 years.
It's a warning from beyond the grave.
Right. Right.
As far as I'm concerned, that's nothing to do with deja vu, or that was your husband looking over you and protecting you and your kids.
Right. But in a way, though, it according to this it's a type of deja vu, because it was already had knowledge of, had known this. I've known this because I dreamt it. And I went through the same motions. It just wasn't deja vu as in split second type thing. But after the fact, after everything was all done, then it clicked. And I'm like, that's so weird. And that was the fast, like, oh my God, it just clicked that I've lived through this before, but in my dream.
Did you get a feeling of deja vu after this whole thing
after everything had ended, and then, I started dating Scott and everything, it was kind of, I even told Scott about it when we first started talking and stuff like that I had this dream and everything. I think I have it in one of my notebooks somewhere around the house. But yeah, it was that feeling of deja vu in a way, because it was just like light bulb went on going, oh, holy crap.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was paranormal.
Well, here, I'll tell you my paranormal. I bought a house from my aunt that my aunt passed away in that house. And Jill and myself bought the house, and my aunt wore a perfume that I only smelled then and have never smelled since. I don't know where she got it or what it was, but you knew she was around because you could smell it and you knew it was her. She was there. And so we bought the house after she passed away, and it smelled from that perfume for the first few months, but we painted and put hardwood floors in, so the smell was gone. And we came home on Christmas Eve and opened the door, and it punched us both in the face, the smell of her perfume coming towards us. And it only lasted for maybe a minute or two.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat down and we're like, hey, Merry Christmas, Aunt Irene. We know that you're here. And you would smell it for a few minutes, and we wouldn't smell it again until the next Christmas Eve. So that happened 3 or 4 Christmas Eves in a row. We sold the house to my niece. And years later, we were sitting around at a family reunion or something, and she said, anything ever weird happen at that house, around Christmas time? And I'm like, you mean like Aunt Irene's perfume? And she's like, yes, we smelled it too. I thought we were crazy. So kind of a cool thing to me, but
that goes in that deja vu, though, the already smelled.
I know. Right. That's, yes. So, when I thought about this topic, I didn't think it was going to go down these weird roads,
Right.
And I thought I would remember more of it happening, but I don't remember any really in particular. And I thought that I would. I was sitting around today watching the Packers lose and trying to, that was sad.
Yeah.
But trying to think of it, I'm like, I really can't think of any in particular because, like I said, to me, they happen so quick and so fast, and it's over and done with. You continue to do what you were doing while you're in that spot or whatever, and
right. That's why I said you picked a good topic, because I mean, it's just it's very complex but very simple, but back to being complex again, like. Not
yeah,
really
because it's
sure
way
what
more
it is.
complex than I would have thought,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah. But again, I wouldn't agree with whatever these researchers were saying with the age and the political
No.
thing and all that. That I don't agree with that. But
Right, because where did you get the source of your research? I mean, if you lived in one section of the country that is more inclined to be one political belief than another,
mm-hmm.
And you don't do a wide variety, yeah, you're going to get that
Persuasion.
right. Because I just think that's just such an odd thing,
Right.
Well, if you're liberal
It's
leaning,
just
you get
one political
deja vu.
party.
Yeah.
It's one political party trying to say the other political party has issues. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All those damn liberals are having this deja vu. They all got problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But well, I think we touched on a lot of different things with this subject, more than what we thought we would. But it has people thinking a little bit more about deja vu and what they're experiencing, how they're experiencing it, and what is causing deja vu. So the next time that you experience it, you're going to think a little bit more about it than you did before this episode, which is kind of a good thing because we got people thinking now. Not that you guys weren't thinking before. I'm not trying to say that, but we're bringing up something else in a topic that people normally don't think about too much into it. As quick as deja vu comes and goes, so does this episode. We're getting to the end here, guys. I think we've touched on it as much as we possibly can. If anybody has anything where they experience a weird kind of deja vu, please explain it to us. We want to hear it. We want to, see if we can kind of break it down for you as well, or we just want to hear it. So just let us know. Till next time, though, we'll talk to you next week. And for our skeptics, keep us grounded. For our believers, keep believing. I'm Kathy. And you guys have a wonderful week. And thank you again for listening to another episode of Wicked Darkness.
Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.